Hey everyone and welcome to this video. My name is Christian from BM Premiere, and episode 9 of Shogun, Prince Some Sky, just blew us away. This episode was all about Mariko, her incredible courage, and the heartbreaking choices she had to make. We're breaking down everything that happened, explaining that intense ending, and figuring out what it all means for the upcoming battle at Sekigahara. Welcome and let's begin. Alright, so episode 9 kicks off with Mariko heading to Osaka with Blackthorne. Toranaga sends them on the mission to deliver their weapons to Ishido, but we know there's more to it than that. Mariko secretly trying to rescue the prisoners held captive in Osaka Castle, including the pregnant woman. Talk about a risky move. Things get even more complicated with the Portuguese sniffing around, trying to figure out what Toranaga set up to. They know a war is coming and they want to make sure they're on the winning side.
War is coming.
Meanwhile, Mariko has a tense reunion with her childhood friend, Ochiba, who's now engaged to Ishido. They have this cryptic conversation through a poetry exchange, hinting at the difficult choices they both have to make. And then boom! Mariko drops a bombshell, announcing she's leaving Osaka with the other hostages. This doesn't sit well with Ishido, and things escalate quickly. Her declaration of leaving Osaka sets off a chain reaction of chaos, while Ishido's guards try to stop her. Mariko shows off her warrior skills with the Naginata. She's a total badass, but ultimately, as we saw, she's outnumbered and forced to retreat. Now she's stuck between a rock and a hard place. She cannot escape, and she knows Ishido won't let her leave. So she decides to take matters into her own hands, and she decides to die with honor rather than be a prisoner. This is where things get really emotional for the men of the council to be her second, but as we saw, he didn't arrive. She's all alone, facing death, ready to do the Seppuku, but it's absolutely heartbreaking to watch. Just when Mariko is about to give up hope, Blackthorne steps up and volunteers to be her second. He might not agree with her decision, but he understands her need to die with dignity and on her own terms. It's a powerful moment that shows just how much he cares for her. They're about to share a final bittersweet moment together, but also Blackthorne finally seems to understand the depth of Mariko's loyalty and the sacrifices she's made for her belief. It's a tearjerker, but just as it seems Mariko's fate is sealed, Ishido allows her to leave Osaka with the other hostages. But hold your horses, because it's not all sunshine and rainbows. Later that night, while she and Blackthorne are sharing a quiet moment, chaos begins. Ninjas sent by Ishido attack, targeting Mariko, but it also turns out that Yabushige, that sneaky snake, betrayed Toranaga and is working with Ishido. Yabushige, he led the ninjas into the castle. So while Mariko and Blackthorne are fighting off the ninjas, Yabushige is just standing there, watching everything go down. It's a pretty tense situation, and we're left wondering what is gonna happen next. The episode ends on a big explosion, leaving us on a major cliffhanger. We don't know if Mariko and Blackthorne made it out okay, but we know she's gonna die. Okay, let's talk about what does all this means for the final episode and the looming battle of Sekigahara. But why didn't Ishido allow her to leave? Well, it's clear that Ishido's getting desperate. He knows that if Mariko makes it back to Toranaga with the hostages, it will be a major blow to his power. That's why he needs the ninjas to capture her, even though it risks starting an all-out war. The episode thrilling ninja attack might have you wondering about the real Shinobi Warriors. If you listen to the podcast, they explain how these mysterious figures separating historical facts from the myth and legends we often see in movies and TV shows. Real Shinobi were not just assassins who flip around and disappeared in a puff of smoke. They were more like spies and secret agents, and sometimes carrying out missions. They often disguise themselves as ordinary people, blending to the background to get the job done. The show portrayal of the shinobi is a bit more dramatic with their skills and deadly fighting abilities, but it also tries to keep things somewhat realistic by showing them wearing bits of armor and using practical tactics. Yabushigi's betrayal is also a game changer. He's been playing both sides, trying to secure his own position no matter who comes out on top. Will he try to talk his way out of it, or will he double down on his alliance with Ishido? As for Mariko and Blackthorne, their fate is up in the air. That explosion at the end of the episode looked pretty intense. Well, we know that Blackthorne survived, but not Mariko. They're outnumbered, outgunned, and surrounded by enemies on all sides. But if there's one thing we learned from this show, is that you can never count out the underdogs. Toranaga been earning his time, gathering his forces, and waiting for the right moment to strike. With Mariko and Blackthorne on his side, he might just have the edge he needs to turn the tide of the war. At its core, episode 9 is all about the choices we make and the consequences that follow. Mariko in particular faces a series of impossible decisions that test her loyalty, her honor, and her very sense of self. When she arrives in Osaka, Mariko is forced to confront her past and the expectations placed upon her. The tense reunion with Chiba highlights the different path they have chosen and the sacrifices they have made along the way. The poetry exchange between them is a beautiful and subtle way of expressing the weight of those choices and the unspoken understanding between those two women, bound by duty and circumstance. One of those conversations also that we have is between Mariko and her son in episode 9. It's a brief but important moment that sheds light on the relationship and the toll that her choices have taken on her family. In the scene, her son confronts her about the shame and dishonor that her actions have brought upon her family's name. He pleads with her to stop her defiance of Ishido. If not, she's not gonna have him as her son. It's a moment that highlights the obligations that she must navigate as a woman in feudal Japan. On one hand, she has a duty to her family and to her son to uphold their honor and reputation. But on the other hand, she also has a duty to her lord Toranaga and to her own sense of what is right and just. The scene is powerful because it shows the human cost of her choices. Her actions have consequences not just about herself, but for those around her. However, this scene would have been more impactful if it had been introduced earlier in the series. By waiting until episode 9 to show us this side of her life, the show missed an opportunity to deepen our understanding of her character and her motivations. Had we seen more of her relationship with her son throughout the series, the stakes of her choices would have felt even higher. We would have understood more fully the sacrifices she was making and the toll it was taking on those closest to her. Her relationship with religion is also a big part of who she is. After her family was killed, she felt alone and lost. Religion for her gave her hope and something to believe during a really dark time. It was a lifeline for her, but being a Christian in Japan was not easy back then. A lot of people saw it as a foreign religion, and it was even banned at times. Because she was a highly ranking lady, she was able to practice her faith openly, but it still caused some tension and conflict in her life. In this episode, we see Mariko struggling with her belief as she prepares for her death. She knows suicide is against her religion, but she also feels a strong sense of duty to Toranaga and her family. It's a really tough choice for her, and it shows how she's caught between two worlds. And something that we saw in this episode is that you might think samurai were all about fighting and battles, but they were actually really into poetry too. Back then, writing poems was a big deal for samurai. It was a way for them to show up their smarts, express their feelings, and even communicate with each other in a special way. Think of it like this. Instead of just saying hello or goodbye, a samurai would write poems to each other. They would even have poetry parties. It was kind of like a rap battle, but with poems instead of rhymes. The podcast also helps us understand why the characters act the way they do. Take Yabushigi for example. He's always looking out for number one, even if it means betraying his friends or switching sides in the war. He's kind of like that chameleon, always changing colors to fit in and survive. Then there's Blackthorne. He's still trying to figure out this whole samurai thing and why everyone's so obsessed with honor and dying for their lord. But he's also starting to understand Mariko and the choices she makes, even if he doesn't always agree with them. He's learning to see the world through her eyes, and that's changing him as a person. Okay, so with her potential demise in the explosion, episode 10 is bound to be an emotional roller coaster. Her death will undoubtedly have a profound impact on Blackthorne and Toranaga, potentially shaping the outcome of the battle Sekigahara and the future of Japan. Her death could shatter Blackthorne's remaining trust in Toranaga. He might question his alliance and the true cause of Toranaga's ambition, leading to a complete breakdown. Consumed by grief and anger, Blackthorne might seek vengeance against Ishido and those responsible for her death. His actions could have unforeseen consequences on the battle. Her last words could inspire Blackthorne to find his own path in Japan, one that honors her memory and the values she held dear. Toranaga might also use her death to further fuel his own ambition, becoming even more ruthless in his pursuit of victory at Sekigahara. Episode 10, A Dream of a Dream, is likely to explore the emotional fallout of Mariko's death and its impact on the characters and the upcoming battle of Sekigahara. The episode title also suggests a sense of pain and the fading of dreams, hinting at the conclusion of the series. So what will become of Blackthorne after her death? Will Toranaga achieve his dream of a unified Japan, and what will be the lasting legacy of the Battle of Sekigahara? Episode 10 promised to answer those questions and more as we reach the ending of this epic saga. My name is Christian from Beyond Premiere. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more Shogun content, and let us know your theories and predictions for the final episode in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.